She was hired to be nothing more than his translator, the voice that carried his words across continents. But one unexpected kiss shattered every boundary, pulling them into a love forbidden by culture, power, and family pride. In a world that demanded they let go, they dared to hold on. The first time Jennifer met Minjun, she almost thought she was dreaming. He was tall, his suit perfect, his eyes sharp like glass. He was the kind of man people whispered about, powerful, rich, and so serious that nobody dared to joke around him. Jennifer had been hired as his translator for his business trip in Africa, and she promised herself she would only act professional. Nothing more. Her job was simple: listen to his Korean words, translate them into English for the African investors, then turn their words back into Korean for him. She had studied both languages for years. She knew tones, gestures, even cultural meanings that could break or make a deal. And Minjun trusted her with every sentence. At first, she saw him as just another client. He was polite but distant, cold but respectful. He always said thank you after she spoke. He never smiled for long. His world was business, numbers, and control. Jennifer's world was language, communication, and small dreams of maybe opening her own translation company one day. But as the days passed, she noticed how his eyes sometimes lingered on her, not too long, but enough for her to wonder. She also noticed how he listened when she spoke, even when she wasn't translating. If she laughed softly at something, he looked at her, curious, like he wanted to know what was in her heart. Jennifer pushed the thoughts away. She reminded herself, I'm just his translator. Nothing more. But deep down, she felt something was building, like a storm she couldn't stop. The meeting room was heavy with tension. Investors argued, papers rustled, and voices clashed. Minjun stayed calm, his voice even, his words sharp. Jennifer translated each one with precision, standing close to him, her voice steady. Everyone respected him, but secretly feared him. His reputation as a tough negotiator was famous. But when Jennifer spoke his words, they softened. People listened to her tone. They trusted her because she carried his meaning with warmth. After the meeting, he glanced at her and said in Korean, "You were amazing today." She translated his compliment into English for the team, but her heart skipped when she realized those words were not meant for anyone else. They were meant for her. She smiled nervously and bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir." That night, she thought about his words longer than she should have. The business trip stretched into weeks. Every day, Jennifer and Minjun were side by side, from morning until late at night. In cars, in planes, in boardrooms, at dinners. She began to notice small things about him, how he rubbed the back of his neck when he was stressed, how he tapped his fingers when he was deep in thought, how his eyes grew softer when he looked at the night sky through hotel windows. She also noticed his loneliness. Yes, he had power. Yes, he had respect. But when the meetings ended and the crowds left, he was always alone. He ate in silence. He walked with guards, but never friends. And sometimes, when he thought no one was watching, his eyes carried a quiet sadness. One evening, after a long day of endless arguments in the boardroom, they walked out into the cool night air. The stars stretched across the African sky, wide and bright. Jennifer hugged her arms against the breeze. Minjun stopped, turned to her, and for the first time in days, really looked at her. His eyes searched hers, and before she could understand what was happening, he leaned down and kissed her. It was sudden, soft, warm, but shocking. Jennifer froze. Her heart raced. She pulled back, breathless. "Sir, why?" He didn't answer at first. His jaw tightened. His eyes were unreadable. And then he whispered, "Because I couldn't stop myself." Her mind spun in circles all night. Was it just weakness? Or did he really see her? The next morning, everything felt different. When she walked into the meeting room, she couldn't meet his eyes. She spoke his words carefully, but her hands trembled as she held her notebook. Every time he looked at her, her chest tightened. But what shocked her most was not his silence. It was the way he acted like nothing happened. He gave instructions. He focused on deals. He was the same cold, distant CEO. Jennifer almost believed she had imagined it until, during a short break, he leaned close to her and whispered, "We need to talk." Tonight, her heart stopped. That evening, he invited her to the rooftop of the hotel. The city lights sparkled below. The air smelled like rain. He stood with his hands in his pockets, looking out. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then finally, he turned to her. "I know I shouldn't have kissed you," he began. "You work for me. You deserve respect." But his voice broke slightly. "I've never met someone like you. You see me. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. Just me." Jennifer swallowed hard. She wanted to say something, but words felt too heavy. So he continued. "I'm always surrounded by people, but I'm alone. When you speak, when you laugh, when you look at me, I don't feel alone anymore." Her eyes stung with tears. She whispered, "I'm just your translator." He stepped closer. His voice dropped. "Not to me." From that night, everything changed. Their connection grew deeper, even if they tried to hide it. During meetings, they stayed professional. But when the doors closed, they shared stolen moments. Little smiles, quiet conversations, hidden touches. He told her about his family, strict parents who never approved of weakness, a lonely childhood, and the crushing weight of his empire. She told him about her dreams to inspire other African women, to show that language could open doors, to build something of her own. Their worlds were different, but their hearts began to beat in rhythm. Yet shadows followed them. The staff began to whisper. Some colleagues noticed their closeness. And Minjun's family, far away in Korea, would never accept a relationship that didn't fit their expectations. Jennifer knew storms were coming. But she also knew one thing: her life would never be the same again. The next morning, Jennifer sat quietly in the car as they drove to the company office. The silence between them was heavy, but not cold. It was the kind of silence that carried a secret, one neither of them wanted to expose too soon. As they entered the meeting hall, she returned to her role, calm, precise, professional. She translated every word flawlessly, her voice steady. But when Minjun glanced at her between sentences, her cheeks grew warm. Later that day, one of the staff members approached Jennifer. "You seem very close to the boss," the woman said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Is there something between you two?" Jennifer forced a laugh. "No, I'm just his translator." But that night, she sat alone in her room, hugging her knees, realizing how fragile her secret was. People were already watching. If they found out the truth, everything could collapse. Still, when her phone buzzed with a message from him, "Meet me on the rooftop again," she couldn't resist. On the rooftop, the stars above seemed brighter, as if the sky itself was watching their secret unfold. He stood waiting, his hands behind his back. When she came closer, he smiled slightly, a rare, soft smile that made her chest ache. "I don't care what people say," he told her. "I just want to know what you feel." Jennifer's breath caught. Her mind screamed warnings, danger, gossip, heartbreak. But her heart whispered, truth. "I feel scared," she admitted, "because this isn't supposed to happen. But I also feel alive when I'm with you." For the first time, Minjun reached out and held her hand. His touch was gentle yet firm, like he was making a silent promise. She let him. Days turned into weeks, and their bond deepened. They shared laughter between flights, quiet conversations over coffee, and stolen glances during endless boardroom battles. Once, during a car ride back from a rural town meeting, heavy rain poured outside. Jennifer leaned her head against the window, lost in thought. Without a word, Minjun leaned her head on his shoulder. The warmth wasn't just from the fabric, it was from him. She looked at him, and for the first time, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man tired, human, vulnerable. But with each passing day, whispers grew louder. Staff exchanged knowing looks. Some smirked, some frowned. And one evening, she overheard two executives whispering in the hallway. "She's just a translator. He'll get rid of her when the trip ends. Or maybe he's blinded. It won't last. His family will never allow it." Jennifer's chest tightened. Their words pierced her heart. She wondered if they were right. The next week brought the biggest test yet, a major contract signing with international investors. The boardroom buzzed with energy. Reporters filled the back rows. Cameras flashed. It was the kind of deal that could shift markets. Jennifer stood beside him, translating every word with sharp precision. Her voice carried across the room, strong and confident. Minjun's trust in her showed in the way he paused after speaking, waiting for her to carry his meaning. When the signing was complete, the investors applauded. Cameras clicked. Minjun shook hands firmly, his usual composed mask in place. But then, in front of everyone, his gaze lingered on Jennifer. Too long. Too personal. And a reporter noticed. The next morning, headlines exploded. Who is the mysterious woman always beside CEO Kang Minjun? Translator or lover? Her face was everywhere. And so were the questions. The scandal spread fast. Staff whispered openly now. Investors looked at her differently. Some smiled knowingly, others looked down on her. Jennifer wanted to disappear. She wanted to hide under the weight of it all. But she couldn't. She still had a job to do. That night, she confronted Minjun in his hotel suite. "This is dangerous," she said, her voice shaking. "They're talking. They think I'm..." He stepped closer, his eyes fierce. "Let them talk. You don't understand," she whispered. "I'm the outsider. I'm the black woman. They'll blame me, not you." His face softened, but his voice stayed firm. "Then I'll protect you." She blinked, stunned. "Why?" His answer was simple. "Because I love you." Her heart stopped. The words hung in the air, powerful, heavy, impossible to ignore. And she realized this wasn't just a moment of weakness. This was real. After his words that night, Jennifer sat frozen. "I love you." She couldn't believe he had said it so clearly, without fear, without hesitation. Her throat tightened. She wanted to run, but at the same time, she wanted to stay right there in the warmth of his presence. "Don't say that," she whispered, shaking her head. "Don't make this harder." But Minjun only stepped closer, his voice low, steady. "It's already hard. But I don't care. I've lived too long letting rules control me. For once, I want to live with my heart." Her chest ached. Tears burned her eyes. "And what about me? What if they ruin me? What if I lose everything? Then I'll stand beside you," he said. "Every step. No one will touch you." That night, for the first time, Jennifer let herself believe him. She let herself rest in his arms, forgetting the world outside. The days that followed were not easy. Newspapers still ran stories. Cameras tried to capture her face whenever she is beside him. Staff whispered. Strangers judged. But Jennifer began to learn something powerful. When she looked into his eyes, the noise faded. One morning, as they walked into the boardroom, she heard a sharp laugh from two executives behind her. "She's just a phase," one of them muttered. "He'll get bored." Her stomach nodded. But then, Minjun reached out, ever so slightly, and brushed his fingers against hers. The touch was small, almost invisible, but it was enough. It told her, ignore them. "Look at me." And she did. One evening, after a long day, they escaped to a quiet cafe outside the city. No guards, no cameras, just the two of them. They sat by the window, sharing a simple bowl of noodles. Minjun laughed, really laughed, when Jennifer teased him about struggling with chopsticks in Africa's local restaurants. "I've never seen you like this," she told him softly. "Like what?" he asked. "Relaxed, free, human." He smiled, his eyes softening. "That's because I'm with you. You remind me who I really am." Her heart swelled. For the first time, she realized love wasn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it was just about noodles, laughter, and the safety of being seen. But the outside world did not stay quiet. One morning, a harsh article appeared in a Korean newspapers. CEO Kang Minjun's reputation in danger, foreign translator at the center of scandal. The article painted Jennifer as a distraction, a weakness, even a mistake. When she read it, her hands shook. "Maybe this is wrong," she told him, her voice breaking. "Maybe I should step away. He grabbed her hands firmly. "No, but your family, your company. They've had my whole life," he said, his jaw tight. "But my heart? That belongs to me. And I choose you." Her eyes filled with tears. In that moment, she understood this man wasn't just powerful because of his money. He was powerful because he dared to love against the world's expectations. They decided, together, to ignore the noise. At work, they stayed professional. No smiles that lasted too long. No touches in public. But outside the office, their love blossomed. Quiet dinners, long walks, whispered dreams in the middle of the night. Sometimes, when the pressure grew too heavy, Jennifer would break down. She would cry in his arms, saying, "It's too much. I can't carry this." And every time, Minjun would hold her tighter and whisper, "Then let me carry it for you." Little by little, she stopped caring what people thought. Little by little, she began to see that love was stronger than gossip. They were not just the CEO and translator anymore. They were two souls who had found home in each other. The first time Minjun mentioned his family, Jennifer felt a cold shiver run through her body. "My parents don't bend," he said one evening as they sat on the balcony of his hotel suite. The city lights sparkled beneath them, but his eyes looked far away. To them, love isn't about the heart. It's about power, reputation, appearances. Jennifer listened quietly, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup of tea. "They chose my brother's wife for him. They've tried to choose mine too. Women from wealthy families. Women with names that mean something in Korea." His voice grew heavy. "You're everything they don't expect. Everything they'd never choose." Jennifer's throat tightened. "Then maybe we should stop this before it gets harder." But Minjun turned to her, his eyes fierce. "No, I won't give you up. Not for them. Not for anyone." Her heart twisted. She wanted to believe him, but she knew storms were coming. The storm arrived sooner than she thought. One morning, Minjun's father flew in unannounced. Chairman Kang, tall, silver-haired, with eyes sharp as knives. His presence filled the hotel lobby like thunder. When Jennifer was introduced as the translator, she bowed politely. But the way the chairman's eyes scanned her made her skin crawl. He didn't see her as a person. He saw her as a problem. Later that night, Minjun stormed into her room, anger burning in his eyes. "He told me to fire you." Jennifer's chest tightened. "I knew this would happen." "I told him no," Minjun said firmly. "And he said, if I keep you, then I risk losing everything." Her voice broke. "Then maybe you should let me go." But Minjun grabbed her hand, his voice steady. "I'd rather lose everything than lose you." The days that followed were filled with tension. Chairman Kong tried to meet with Minjun daily, pushing, threatening, reminding him of his duties to the family name. Jennifer kept her distance, but every time she passed the chairman in the hotel, she felt his disapproval like a shadow pressing down on her. Then one evening, Minjun invited her to dinner with his father. Her stomach flipped. "What?" "No, he hates me." "He doesn't know you," Minjun replied. "If he hears your voice, your heart, maybe he'll see what I see." That night, Jennifer sat across from the most powerful man she had ever met. At first, the table was silent except for the clink of chopsticks. The chairman barely looked at her. But when Minjun asked her to share her story, she spoke softly about her childhood, her struggles, and her love for languages. She ended with a simple truth: "I may not come from wealth, but I have dignity. And I will never bring shame to anyone I love." For the first time, Chairman Kang looked at her directly. His eyes softened, if only slightly. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the chairman's harshness faded. He still tested them. He still pushed. But one evening, he called Jennifer aside privately. "You're strong," he told her in slow, careful English. "Stronger than I thought." Jennifer's breath caught. It wasn't acceptance yet, but it was not rejection either. It was something in between. Later, when she told Minjun, he smiled faintly. That's his way of admitting respect. He'll never say it out loud, but he's beginning to see you. Jennifer's heart lifted, just a little. Maybe, just maybe, love could break even the coldest walls. But acceptance didn't come only from his father. One afternoon, Minjun's mother arrived. Unlike his father, she carried warmth in her eyes, though sadness lingered there too. She pulled Jennifer aside, away from the men, and said softly, "Do you love my son?" Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, with all my heart." The woman touched her hand gently. "Then don't give up. He has always been lonely. If you can take that loneliness away, then maybe you're exactly what he needs." For the first time, Jennifer felt hope bloom fully inside her chest. Maybe the world would never stop talking. Maybe the road would always be hard. But with love, and little by little, even family could learn to accept. Weeks passed, and slowly the tension began to ease. Chairman King was still strict, still distant, but he no longer demanded that Jennifer be sent away. His silence was his surrender. His eyes, though sharp, no longer carried the same fire of rejection. His wife, on the other hand, grew closer to Jennifer. She invited her for tea, asked about her family in Africa, and even taught her how to prepare a traditional Korean dish. Jennifer realized something important. While the world was busy judging them, love was quietly building bridges. One evening, as the sun set in gold over the city, Minjun and Jennifer stood together on the balcony of his family's estate. It was the same balcony where years of decisions had been made, the same view that had witnessed his loneliness for so long. But this time, he wasn't alone. "I used to think success meant power, control, and fear," he said softly, his arm wrapped around her waist. "But now I know, true success is finding someone who sees you, truly sees you, and still chooses to stay." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "And I choose you. Every single day." He kissed her forehead, a quiet promise sealed in the fading light. Behind them, the sliding door opened. Chairman King stepped out, his hands clasped behind his back. For a moment, silence ruled. Then, in a voice low but clear, he said, "If this is your choice, then I will not stand in the way." It wasn't warm approval, but it was acceptance. And in that moment, it meant everything. Jennifer bowed deeply, her heart swelling with gratitude. Minjun's hand tightened around hers, as if anchoring her to this new beginning. From that day forward, they lived not in shadows, but in light. There were still whispers, still critics, still challenges. But together, they ignored the noise. Together, they laughed, dreamed, and built a love that was stronger than prejudice, louder than gossip, and braver than fear. For in the end, she was never just his translator. She was his heart, his home, his forever. Drop your thought in the comment section. That was another tale from Folktales by Blizzy, where stories leave forever. If it made you smile, feel, or think, please like, share, and subscribe.